Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel Blue Lady Couture. Today I'm doing my first ever review of a film TV series, Bridgerton. Now I know, there's like 20 million other rants and reviews about the costumes in Bridgerton, so I'm going to keep this short and sweet hopefully, but I kind of wanted to throw my hat into the ring and give you my thoughts and opinions on the costumes in the new Netflix series. I've come up with 7 points that I want to cover, one of which is a kind of a general my thoughts and feelings on the costumes in the show, and then I've got 3 things that I loved and 3 things that I kind of hated. So yeah, I kind of feel like the show's a bit of a Marmite when it comes to costumes. So yeah, so let's get started, shall we? Okay, number 1. I didn't actually hate it. It may surprise some of you. Yeah, I went into it very open-minded. I'd seen the trailer and I knew from the immediate discussions that went around the costuming kind of side of the internet that it was fantasy and it was not going to be historically accurate. So I went into it very open-minded, thinking, okay, let's give this a go. And yeah, it's a fantasy Regency. It's inspired by, and obviously based on an actual novel, but it's inspired by the fantasy side of Regency society, the whole, wearing pretty frocks and going and finding husbands, and the whole Mills and Boon kind of romantic novel kind of aesthetic. So yeah, so I went into it completely open-minded and did not hate it. I actually quite enjoyed it, which brings me on to my second point. I actually loved the dresses. I loved the colours and how the colours were used to create a bright and pretty kind of Regency look to the scenes. There was very little of it was dark. All the street scenes were bright and colourful, and the use of flowers throughout everything was really nice. And I liked how they used different colours for the different families. So obviously you had the Bridgerton family, which were all in really lovely soft kind of blues, or shades of kind of mauve and lilac, and then you had the Featheringtons, who who were kind of the we'll call them the the evil stepmother and ugly sisters of the and I very much felt that was where they went with the inspiration for that. They totally took inspiration from the Cinderella reboot from a few years ago, where they put the particularly Kate Blanchett as the ugly stepmother, they put her in kind of 50s couture, and I feel like they decided to go 60s couture with the Featherington, particularly Mrs. Featherington or Lady Featherington. Yeah, very much got 60s vibes from her outfits, and they were probably the most un-Regency of the lot, shall we say. But yeah, I love the colours that they use, and I love the use of the fabrics and embellishments, the way they combined these colours and they layered the fabrics. Obviously the fabrics they used were modern fabrics, embroidered tulles and laces, but I loved how they used modern fabrics in this piece, and just create that lovely effect with the applique flowers, and obviously there's lots of sort of rhinestones and bling going on as well. But yeah, I just thought it was really nicely done and really pretty as well. The Featheringtons aside, it is a different kind of pretty. It is a gaudy kind of pretty, but I didn't, I liked it. It worked, and it was suited their characters and their aesthetic, their family aesthetic. The costumes themselves were also really well made. They used really good tailors, really good dressmakers and costumiers. The corsets, I believe, were all made by Mr. Pearl. We will come on to the corsets in a bit. But I actually want to take a moment just to highlight 2 of the designers that I came across that had worked on the series. It's quite common in big productions like this that the construction of some of the outfits will be, what's the word? Sent out to other designers and makers to work on. And 2 that I came across in my research was Denise Hayward, who she's done loads of costume dramas over the years and films and series. Most recently she's done the Carnival Row series. She did Man in the Iron Mask like several years ago. So yeah, so she knows her stuff about costume making. Yeah, she made one of Lady Bridgerton's dresses, the blue dress she wears to the garden party with the hummingbirds and birds kind of embroidered or printed on the silk. And that was one of hers, and it's beautiful, I have to say, really, really pretty. I just love the way she used the print on that. Gorgeous. And then a designer who I've not come across before, I think they may be quite a new designer on the costuming scene, and that's Joey Santangelo. I think I've got that name pronunciation right. I apologise if I haven't. But he made the dress that Daphne wears in the park scene, the button my cuff scene. He made that dress, and I found some gorgeous pictures on his Instagram, if you want to go check him out, just showing a couple of snaps behind the scenes of the making of that, and some close-ups of actually how he's made that button cuff. It's beautiful, I have to say. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, little details, so gorgeous. So yeah, I love the dresses. Point number 3. I hated the corset scene. I mean, I think everyone has said that on any video that I've watched on Bridgerton reviews. Eye roll. Ugh. I get what they were trying to do. I get that they're trying to do this stereotype that fits that costuming, fantasy, romance kind of aesthetic, that ladies were cinched in to, you know, couldn't breathe, and that's what they had to do to conform to beauty standards of the time, and it was how you got a husband. I know that's the general trope, but it just doesn't fit in the Regency aesthetic. Corsets of the time weren't tight lacing corsets like you got, you know, in the later Victorian period, and cinching in your waist just is irrelevant in Regency fashion because your waistline is just under your bust, so there's no point cinching in down here. It's just covered by fabric. Sorry, hitting the table in my... I think it would have worked if they had put the daughter in the same style of dresses as her mother, because Lady Featherington wears, you say, these weird 60s kind of inspired dresses that are fitted under the bust, but they're also shaped around her waist as well, and really obviously shaped around her waist. So I think if they put the daughter in that style of dress, then the scene might have worked. But, you know, that side, Regency corsetry, isn't that style of corsetry. The other way I think they could have played it is the Regency kind of fashion for supporting the bust was literally to hoik the bust up, you know, and they could have played on that a little bit more rather than the whole cinching in the waist couldn't breathe. They could have did the whole a kind of comedic scene of, you know, hoiking the bust up to create, you know, the cleavage effect. So, which would have been more appropriate for Regency. So yeah, I understand why they did it, but I don't think it worked within the context of the Regency setting. I know fantasy Regency, but, you know, if you're gonna do Regency, do Regency, you know. Yeah, and then the other point with the corsets is, and I know there are beautiful corsets made by Mr. Pearl, but yeah, they're not wearing chemises underneath, and the scene where it shows the back of Daphne and the corset has rubbed and blistered her skin, and it didn't really happen, you know. They would have worn chemises, because, you know, it was... Point number 4. I loved Lady Danbury's outfit, particularly because she was one of the few ladies in the series who wore headwear, as in actual hats, and she wore a lot of Spencers and kind of pelisse style kind of over jackets and over sort of garments, which you just didn't see in the rest of the series. And I personally think that's such a shame, because I think the design team really missed an opportunity there to have some fun with Regency headwear. Where were the bonnets? You know, there was some wonderful street scenes full of characters in costume, even background characters. All the men are wearing top hats, not a single lady in a bonnet. Excuse me, I'm just looking down at my notes. For me, when I think of Regency era, even in like a fantasy kind of setting, bonnets are as much a part of the look as the empire waist, you know. And I know in film and TV, quite often the directors don't like bonnets because they often shade the face and they're very hard to film and light nicely. But yeah, I just feel they're part of the look for a general Regency look, you know. And the same goes for the little Spencer jackets. All of the outdoor scenes, pretty much, the characters, or the female characters, are all just wearing these little lightweight dresses. There's a few examples where some of the ladies do wear Spencers and jackets, but they're very simple in a way in the design. I think Daphne wears one a bit later after she's married. But it's very simple, very plain, you know, it's just lovely fabric, but there's no embellishment on it. And I really feel that the design team could have gone to town playing with some really frivolous Regency looks that would have probably still worked with the style of the dresses that they went for, you know. Maybe it was a cost kind of budget issue. So I know there was something like 7,500 costume pieces that were used throughout the series. A lot of that budget was then spent on these beautiful dresses with beautiful fabrics, and obviously they've been made by lots of different designers. Maybe the budget just didn't stretch to doing kind of headwear and jackets as well, which is a shame. And I personally feel the use of the flower and the feather fascinators was a little bit cheap. To me, I just wish they'd used bonnets. That's just Regency for me. Number 5, I hated Penelope's ill-fitting dresses, and I'm sure some of you will know the ones I mean. It's the ones that cut her off where the waistline of the dress is sitting across her bust rather than under her bust, because they're just too short in the bodice length, and they just look awful. And I don't know whether that was intentional or whether it was just poor design. Obviously in the story she's getting all her clothes made by the modiste, so in theory they should have fitted her. But whether some of it was to try and show that she was the kind of forgotten daughter, and she was often mocked by her mother and sisters for her size, I don't know. But then some of her other dresses fit her really nicely. So yeah, I don't know. But that's just one of those, it just irked me a little bit. And yeah, it's a shame because some of her dresses were, garish colours aside, you know, they were really pretty, and I loved her as a character. I just think it's a shame that some of her dresses didn't fit her properly. And yeah, if it wasn't intentional for the sake of the story, then I think it's a shame. The final thing that I hated, that I want to talk to you guys about, is Daphne's hair. I mean, I'm not going to consider myself an expert hairstylist, but there is just something about her as a lead character in a Regency-esque setting, and her hair was just really lackluster. I don't know what it was. I mean, she kind of wears it half down at the beginning of the series, which, okay, she's unmarried, so I'm assuming that's where they were going, that she was unmarried, she could wear her hair loose. Then obviously when she's married, she starts to wear it up a bit more, but it's still just very simple, and it's, you know, just almost in like just a ponytail or just in a little chignon. And then her fringe, I don't even know what her fringe was. It was just, I hated it because it was just, it looked like it had been cut wrong, and it was too short, and I just, yeah, didn't like it. I wanted ringlets, you know, some curls. Give me Regency curls. You know, coming back to almost the bonnet thing. That just says Regency to me, you know, Grecian kind of curls and updos. That's, yeah, and I just don't know quite where they went with Daphne's hair. I'm guessing they were trying to show her as very simple rather than these ostentatious kind of styles that some of the other characters were wearing, but to me it just didn't quite work. But that does bring me nicely on to my final point that I loved, and that was the over-the-top wigs. And I'm particularly talking about Queen Charlotte and the two ladies whose names I can't remember. It's the blonde lady and her mother, who are kind of Daphne's rival. You know, she plays that kind of character. I can't remember her name, but yeah, they both wear these really fabulous kind of wigs and hairstyles with plait details. You know, it kind of almost starts to go into the 18 sort of 20s into 30s with them, and I just loved that. I just loved all that level of detail in them, and you know, the ostentatiousness of their style. And then yeah, Queen Charlotte and her fabulous 18th century wigs, and you know, aside from the fact that she's still wearing 18th century garments in 1815, we'll just leave that to one side. Her finale wig, I actually discovered the wig maker actually worked on her hair pieces, and you can find him on Instagram. He is Adam James Phillips, and if you scroll down his feed, you will find some of the behind the scenes making of Queen Charlotte's finale wig, and oh my goodness, it is insane the amount of work and detail that went into it. So they incorporated dreadlocks into her wig, which I thought was really clever and really nice. Actually, it worked really well. And then there was all these curls and these hair bows all in it, and I think there were birds in cages in it as well, and it was absolutely stunning. And yeah, and I think that just goes to show that the people that worked on this, the design team that worked on Bridgerton, did do a really incredible job on, you know, a lot of the little details, the construction of these pieces. You know, they weren't made cheaply. You know, they really did put time, effort, and money into making all these wonderful pieces. I'm drink my coffee before it goes cold. Historical accuracy aside, in summary, it doesn't really matter. You know, the whole thing was a little bit of light-hearted, colourful fluff, which in the year that we've had, in the Christmas where we couldn't see anybody, to just be able to sit down and watch a bit of costumey fluff on the TV with pretty dresses and a bit of romance, you know, I'll take it. You know, I enjoyed it overall as a series, and for the most part I enjoy the costuming, other than the few little points that I have picked out here. And you know, at the end of the day, historical accuracy isn't everything. You know, I make steampunk fantasy ensembles, so you know, if you enjoy it, go for it. I hope you enjoyed my little ramble about the costumes on Bridgerton. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give it a like and click the thumbs up button. You can also subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell to know when my next videos go out. I do have a coffee account if you would like to support my channel and buy me a coffee for, you know, a couple of pounds to help me carry on creating content. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and I will pop the links to those down below. And I'll also pop the links to the free designers that I specifically mentioned in here as well. I will see you in my next video. Take care, guys.